of another individual, of another family. And so our time today is actually very important for many reasons. It's a time for us to sort of gather to, in our own way, to honor and to pay respects to Matthew Knight, but also to provide a measure of comfort to the family in some really tangible ways, and then in some ways that we cannot see with our eyes, to shoulder the grief that they bear. In the loss of a husband, a father, a brother, a son, a nephew, an uncle, and of course to so many, a friend. I think a best friend is the way I've heard him described. These moments, as we gather today, as this place of kind of a dreadful overlap of two places, separated by this mystery of death, something that we really can't, as humans, get our minds around. I think this moment is made more poignant because of the imagery of Jen, of you and Miles, and then also of Matthew and Nora. And we don't really know how it works. Like our minds can't fathom it. But we need a way to see and believe. It can't just be a good idea that makes us feel better about a terrible thing, but rather perhaps it's a foundational reality. It's a foundational reality of this hope that we have. The way the scriptures talk about is that it's this life indeed, that we get to take hold of a life that is really what life is. And so as we begin, I want to read a passage and then just make a couple of remarks. And you'll hear from the family and I think some beautiful reminders of Matthew, but also beautiful hope that we have. Psalm 34, it says that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he delivers those who are crushed in spirit. And the thing you see over and over again in the scriptures is it never glosses human emotion. It doesn't say, oh, it's going to be fine. It just enters in to the kind of thing we feel, a crushed soul and a broken heart. And one of the things that I've come to believe, and I think that I've heard at least many times from this family, is the depth of Matthew's faith and the faith that he's grown up in, that he's inherited and lived. And what you realize is that the gospel is a message that provides us with a foundation, and it's really the only good news that allows us to hope when things don't go the way that we wanted, and sometimes when they don't go the way we prayed. There's probably not a person here who didn't pray for Matthew's healing, myself included. I've written his name down in my journal for the last, I think, 18 months. Every week at the top, and Miles and Jen, and your names individually, Matthew. To pray and to ask God. And sometimes he doesn't intervene the way that we wanted him to, but he does intervene. He intervenes in ways that often we can't see, that do something that we come to understand as being profound in how it affects us. And it is this promise that we're given in the gospel, the good news of Jesus, that is the promise of God's redemption. In the words of J.R. Tolkien in Lord of the Rings, it's this vision of everything sad becoming untrue. Paul, the apostle, would write it like this. He says, in him, Christ, you also, after listening to the message of truth, the gospel of your salvation, having also believed, you were sealed in him with the Holy Spirit of promise, who is given as a pledge of our inheritance. Then he adds this line, with a view to the redemption of God's own possession, with a view to the redemption of everything that belongs to God. As we wrestle with moments like this, I try not to be trite, because although we want to celebrate a life well lived, we also want to acknowledge that this is a life cut short. And so you'll wrestle with these things, and you should. The redemption that I'm talking about is not stuffing pain and moving on and pretending that everything's fine, but it's actually about feeling the depth of the emotion that we feel and allowing it to drive deep enough to intersect with the depth of God's love for us, with a view to the redemption of everything that belongs to him. And so that's what I want for us to do. These moments matter. My hope today, Jen, for you and Miles, for the siblings and relatives, moms and dads, I hope that being surrounded, you will feel a sense of comfort and love for you. And that sometimes when grief comes, it feels like we can't breathe. Our breath is taken away. And so today, I pray that this will be a time where you just kind of let God breathe breath into your lungs. And when you walk out of here today, it'll feel like a giant exhale, and you'll have a true sense of hope. That's what we pray for. Father, would you do that for us today? It won't be a one and done, but would you do it in moments and in swatches where we get to receive and feel and trust and believe? That it would be sufficient for those moments when everything feels like it's coming apart again. God, would you use our presence to bring comfort and hope and peace to this family, to shoulder the grief that we all feel. And so I ask you to do this in these moments that follow. And I pray all of these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there I find you in the mystery, in ocean's deep, my faith will stand. So I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Oh. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you've never failed, and you won't start now. And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Oh. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. And take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. And my faith would be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. And take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. And my faith would be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. So I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. but I am yours, and you are mine.
This is different being up here, much different. And I'll try to get through this best I can. But first, I just want to say good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. It means so much to us to be part of this ceremony to honor Matthew. And throughout this process of Matthew's illness, I've tried to point out to Miles all throughout, look at all the helpers that helped us and all the things he learned about different types of people, different types of families, different types of abilities. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways and lessons for us, that the world is filled with helpers. So I hope that we can be the helpers and always look for the helpers as well. So when I started thinking about what I would say today, there seemed to be endless memories, stories, pictures. And even though we've only shared 13 years together and 10 years married, which is obviously too short, I went back and, took a trip down memory lane, and I found a coaster from our wedding that had the words on them that were a love letter written by Beethoven. And the words were, "Ever thine, ever mine, ever ours." And at the time, the words represented the joining of our lives. But the poetic words have stuck with me, and I came to view those words differently throughout our marriage. I quickly learned how deeply loved Matthew was by everyone. And as you can see, at times I felt like I was living in an episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, but Matthew was the main character. And I'm pretty sure maybe my family loves him more than me, but that's okay. I'm completely fine with that, because he truly is ever mine and ever ours. So how do we say goodbye to someone loved so deeply? I honestly don't know the answer to that yet, or maybe ever, but I do know that I will spend the rest of my life honoring the incredible person he was. Matthew left an imprint on each of us, and in a different way, in the different relationships he had with us. His presence in our lives shaped us in ways that will carry in our hearts forever. What I hope to accomplish today when I talk to you is to just weave an invisible thread of our life and our love story. Music was a very important part of our story. We met at the Summer Sundown concert series with the help of some friends who introduced us. So you'll notice many references to songs that hold meaning for us. And for those of you that know me well know, of course, there's going to be lyrics and inspirational quotes and all that. So that's just me. But before I met Matthew, I would listen to the song Heart of Gold by Neil Young often and dream about finding someone like that with a heart of gold. When our paths finally did cross, I didn't realize right away that my search for a heart of gold was over. It took a while to get to know Squeaky, as all his friends called him. But I finally followed my Aunt Julie's love advice that she'd given me for years. She would say to me, "I don't want you to fall in lust, but I want you to find someone where you can grow in love." And so on one of our dates, we exchanged our infamous mixed CDs of songs we loved. And from that day on, we continued to grow in love. There's a song by the Revivalists that says, "I wish I knew you when I was young." And I would often say how much I wish that were true to Matthew. But he would laugh and say that I might not have been that impressed with the younger version of Matthew or the legend of Squeaky. And maybe he was right, but I do know that the universe and God conspired for our union. We had many mutual friends when we finally met. that were part of clubs like the Port City Ruritan Club. We attended the same concerts, but we didn't know each other yet, often the Avett brothers. We both attended Port City Community Church, but had never met each other here. So I'm forever thankful for the friends who encouraged our relationship because he inspired me to be a better person every single day we were together. Matthew was the kind of person who made life better by simply being in it. From his infectious smile to his unwavering kindness, he had an extraordinary ability to make everyone around him feel valued. His love for his family was immeasurable. The Knight family welcomed me with open arms and have taught me so much about faith and truly living life. At first, I was a little overwhelmed by their Energizer Bunny way of life because they are on the go all the time. But because of their impact on me, I immediately knew after Matthew was diagnosed that I would do everything in my power to make every day count. I was intentional about making memories, both big and small. We traveled to Niagara Falls, to Boone, California for Disneyland and Universal Studios. Our recent trip to New York City at Christmas for the Home Alone tour. We went to our favorite camping cabins and our favorite place to spend the 4th of July each summer at Sylvia Lake. As a husband, he was my partner and created a grounded foundation for our family, solid in his beliefs. He was always loving, hilariously funny, and supportive of anything I wanted to do. Our bond was one of deep respect and admiration, and we truly just enjoyed being together. Growing our family only strengthened our strong bond, and Miles, Matthew, and I became a tight little trio, in addition to our dogs, Reddick, Yaya, and Rexy. As a father, Matthew's love for his children was boundless. He found joy in every moment with Miles, whether it was mowing the yard together, teaching him to ride a bike, sharing his love of sports, making unboxing videos, building Legos, or an exciting family adventure. Miles was the light of his life, and he poured his heart into nurturing him, teaching him, and guiding him with the same care and wisdom that he was brought up with. He loved sharing Stoneville with him and watching the Andy Griffith Show together. Our world was rocked when our daughter Nora died in 2019. I truly did not know how to live again after that loss. He remained calm, loving, patient, and steady as I gained my footing again and slowly came back to life. I'll continue to grieve for the life we are missing with Nora and now her father. But it does give me comfort to think of them being reunited. I had planned family photos for the summer after her birth and made myself go because I wanted desperately to create a positive memory from this deeply sad time in our life. Even though I wept the entire way there and back home, the results were the most beautiful pictures of us in a field of sunflowers. We each held a sunflower to honor our precious Nora, and that became our way of remembering our girl. So my heart of gold husband became a field of gold family that is imprinted on my heart forever. Our final true interaction was making a deal that he would do his best to take care of Nora, and I would do my best to take care of Miles. And he nodded and smiled, and I'll never forget the peaceful look of joy on his face at that moment. When he was suddenly diagnosed with glioblastoma, we all watched in awe as he faced this dreadful disease with unmatched positivity, courage, and grace. Even at the very end, when it was so hard for him to communicate, he managed to say, "I am for positive thinking." The strength in which he carried himself through each day was nothing short of inspiring. Even as he battled to survive, he never lost sight of what truly mattered: his family, his faith, his friends, and his love for life. Through this journey, he showed us the true meaning of resilience and the importance of cherishing every moment we have. While we all miss him deeply, I find comfort in knowing that his legacy of laughter, kindness, and generosity lives on in each of us. The lessons he taught us through his actions about what it means to live fully, to give selflessly, and to face life's trials with relentless courage will continue to inspire us forever. A poem by Robert Frost resonates with me when I think about my heart of gold husband walking in fields of gold with Nora and cheering for his demon deacons on streets of gold in heaven. It's called Nothing Gold Can Stay. Nature's first green is gold, her hardest hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. Then leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. So today, as we reflect on Matthew's life, let us remember the joy he brought to our hearts, the laughter he shared, the love that he gave so freely to everyone. Let us honor him by carrying his spirit with us in the way we live our lives, by loving those around us as he loved us, and by making the world a kinder place, just as he did each day. Get out there and travel, reach out to people, send them birthday cards, show up for other people. Make those trips to see your family and friends, because that's what he would do. So my dear Matthew, you'll be forever missed and never forgotten. Your love will live on in all of us, and we will strive to live a full life like you would want us to do. I love you, my immortal beloved. You are now free as a bird, so you know what that means. Please join me in saying what you all know he would say at any gathering that he got the opportunity to say. Are you ready? Let's do it. 3, 2, 1. Free bird! Thank you.
Brother, I sure hope this goes better than your UNCW Palm Pilot sales pitch. Now, Matthew once told a group of us he wasn't a people person. Well, based on the look out across this room, social media timeline, and the last 18 months of texts and calls, I have to disagree. On behalf of our family, I'd like to thank every person who's reached out, offered help, or said a prayer these last 18 months. Matthew did not fight this battle alone. Early on, he was the most loyal of brothers. I recall a time when in grade school and I had gotten in trouble. Mama come home from school, was delivering my punishment, as Southern mamas do. Matthew and Maggie ran in the other side of the house to hide under a table. He told Maggie, "I wish it was me." To which Maggie responded, "I don't." This is one of my earliest memories of his loyalty. He was also a loyal friend as years later in high school. He would loan his friends his car so they could skip school. And I think a couple of those are out here. I'm pretty sure that was the only time Matthew got in trouble in his life. It was Matthew who taught me the phrase, if you can't beat them, join them. As little kids, it was normal for us to play Cowboys and Indians. I guess that's why I pulled for the Dallas Cowboys. However, Matthew rooted for the 49ers, and it took about 3 years of losing to little brother to convince me to join the 49er faithful. I never really enjoyed a time rooting against his teams anyway. And the 49ers have been something that have bonded us over our life and passed on to our entire family. Matthew was a positive person. It was sports where I saw that the most. He was a devout Wake Forest University Demon Deacon athletics fan, which is tough in the land of UNC and Duke. Little old Wake Forest had to fight for every win, and a lot of times come from behind. And during those games, it was not unusual for him to lean over, whisper in Maggie's ear, we got him right where we want him. That positivity bled over to the Atlanta Braves. Chad Mitchell would take Matthew and me to the Braves games. God bless you, Chad. He's hugging Brady. But Matthew always ended the year after we would get our hearts ripped out, saying 85 days until spring training. Despite his diagnosis, his optimistic nature never wavered. Not once did I hear him complain, and not once did I see him give up. Matthew loved theme music. In the summer of 2000, Matthew and I drove all night to Canton, Ohio to get a seat for the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction of his sports hero, who he also sent a graduation announcement to. Upon entering Canton, Ohio, Matthew queued up the Fox Sports football theme. May 19, 2010, he would do the same when we arrived at Augusta National Golf Club at 6:30 a.m. in the morning for an 11 o'clock tee time. I think that was the last time Matthew was on time for anything. Matthew was a patient man, and that could be seen in many areas of his life, including Legos. As many of us observed, he would sit on the floor for hours, putting together sets after set with Miles. I wish I could relate, but I remember doing the same with my boys, and after about 15 minutes telling them, I got to go to the bathroom, I'll be right back. No different from my dad, except his line was, I'm going to run to the post office, I'll be right back. Matthew loved to work. As a teenager, he would wash cars, mow lawns, but his first job was priming tobacco for Otis Shively, with several of his buddies who are here today. I'm sure there was some law that would exist now that would prevent that. I just remember him coming home and throwing up. He was like 8 years old. It was something I never wanted to experience. Matthew also worked at Deep Springs Country Club. God bless you, Kurt Bennett. Matthew's no doubt hugging Sue. Ball Corporation. It took me only one summer of that place to realize it wasn't for me. Matthew made it multiple years, and he probably would have made it a career there had it been God's plan. Augusta National. I began working at the annual Masters Tournament in 2005. I was able to get Matthew a job there the next year. After 1 year at Augusta, Matt Dial, who is now the Senior Director of Supply Chain Operations, told me I could come back next year, but only if I brought Matthew. Masters became our annual trip for many years. Matthew also worked at Circuit City and spent most of his life working at ATS with the master, Brad Odell. Matthew was a note taker. He had a calendar that outlined everything. For example, we were reading his entry just last Saturday, right after he had passed, and it had the birthdays on that date. One of those birthdays was Addie Case, Brandon Case's daughter, where it read 5 pounds, 6 ounces. So not only did he note the date of your child's birth, he put the weight. I mean, who does that? Somebody who cares about the details. Granted, who likes playing hot dogs? I've spoken about my relationship with Matthew, but Maggie and him had a different bond. and it was like fraternal twins. They both attended UNC Wilmington together and have made Wilmington their home ever since. I believe one of the reasons they've stayed this long is they never wanted to leave the other. During those years, their names have become synonymous with each other. I would always hear, "How's Matthew and Maggie?" It was never, "How's Matthew?" and it was never, "How's Maggie?" It makes sense because whether it was a concert or a Wake Forest football game, they were always together. It was Matthew who Maggie credits with her music taste. Matthew loved music and loved singing karaoke. 3 weeks ago, when Matthew began having difficulty communicating and trouble putting sentences together, we're sitting in his living room, and he began singing "Drift Away." Still carried a note. His illness had not disrupted his ability to sing a song that he knew so well. Matthew and Jen were married in 2014 after 3 years of dating and Maggie's approval. Living in Atlanta, I didn't always get the pleasure of observing their marriage. However, I've seen and heard stories that speak to his immense love for Jen. The commitment, care, and love they had for each other is what couples dream of. It was evident in the last 18 months how deep his love was for her. Whether it was taking a class on how to type left-handed or the numerous PT sessions, he fought hard as he could so she could continue to be an amazing mother to Miles and do the things that she loved. These are just a couple examples of the way Matthew fought for Jen's happiness, especially after losing their daughter, Nora. To try and accept the magnitude of my brother having cancer and now being gone has been the most difficult thing that I've ever had to do. The void and the sadness that we all feel is very real, and it's not without hope that we mourn. And we are not alone in our mourning, for the God of our universe joins us in our sorrow. I recently heard someone say we are not in the land of the living, going to the land of the dying. We are in the land of the dying, going to the land of the living. In 2 Timothy, Paul said, I have fought the good fight, I've finished the race, I've kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. Matthew has finished the race. He kept the faith, and now the crown of righteousness is his, and he's with our sweet Nora. Someday I'm going to finish the race. I will have kept the faith, and the crown of righteousness will be mine. Matthew loves everybody in this room, and one day we will all be reunited. And if one person isn't there, he will be disappointed. I love you, Matthew.
I didn't choose to go third. Glad to see everybody here today. I'm Mike. I'm Jen's dad, Matthew's father-in-law, Miles' papa. First time I'm honored to be here and share a few words about our beloved Matthew. First time we met Matthew was about 12 years ago. It was yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Please, thank you. What a fine young man. The next visit was the same thing. And I thought, my kids are good kids, but they're not that polite. So I wondered, was he working hard just to win us over? No, that was Matthew. So he hooked us with that smile, that sense of humor, and those manners. My compliments to Bill and Joanne for raising such a fine young man. We were blessed to have Matthew join our family. The love for his family is unmatched. I mean, Jen and Matthew and Miles shared a beautiful life together. They shared more adventures than most in a lifetime. Matthew was Jen and Miles' protector, guardian, and hero. We admire all he loved doing with them and witness their happiness. By the size of this crowd today, Matthew had many loving friends and family members, which he enjoyed every moment with. When we were down to visit, he would have car after car throughout the years just pull in the driveway to come in and hang with Matthew. I mean, he just loved every minute he had with his family and his friends. Jen spoke a little bit about energy. He had the energy to enjoy every day. He loved life. On trips to Sylvia Lake, he would outlast all of us. It would be, "Where's Matthew?" He'd be fishing down on the dock just as the sun was coming up. Then he'd do some kayaking, some swimming, jumping off the cliffs. And then finally, all the family stuff in between all of those things. At the end of the day, we'd all be ready and start turning in, and he'd fix a bowl of ice cream or say, "Let's go to the custard cottage for an ice cream cone." He loved his home. He kept his lawn immaculate, picking those weeds by hand in spite of Rexy pulling them out, pulling the grass and digging holes. He loved the challenge of home projects, plumbing, deck building, gardening, and many more. He always had the best holiday decorations on Pine Street. Sports. I didn't bring any jerseys with me, but he and I enjoyed a bantering back and forth about sports. When Syracuse would be playing Wake, we'd exchange a little bit. When the Braves would sweep the Mets, he would let me know very politely. And then when the 49ers would play that other team, we'd go back and forth a little bit. But his Niner legacy lives on in the next generation. The other day, I went into the living room and flicked on the Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs game. And Miles heard a little action, and he saw the red uniforms, and he came in and snuck the remote away from me and turned the game off. He said, "We don't watch the Kansas City Chiefs in this house." So my life was happier when I was around Matthew. We will miss him and think of him often. We can all honor him by living more like him. Rest in peace, Matthew.
Lost and weary traveler, searching for the way to go. Stranger, heavy-hearted, longing for someone you know. May you find a light. May you find a light. May you find a light to guide you home. There are weary travelers searching everywhere you go. Strangers who are searching, longing deeply to be known. May you find a light. may you find a light. May you find a light to guide you. And this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Well, what a beautiful tribute to Matthew, and I hear all the stories, and I know so much of what I've heard is of Matthew's loyalty and his patience, and I probably exhausted his patience one Sunday at my talking about Duke basketball or Carolina acknowledgement. I think one day had it, and he yelled out, "What about Wake Forest?" I guess they do get overlooked. It takes a lot of patience and a lot of optimism to be a Braves fan and a Wake Forest fan and the rest, and I share some of that with him. One of the things I want to do is I've gotten to just spend some time with Jen and hearing a lot of stories. Is they definitely have a wide musical kind of repertoire. I thought I knew a lot of music, and I was listening, going, I don't have any idea who a lot of these people are. And so I spent the morning listening to Brandi Carlile. The other day, and Jim was talking about Brandi Carlile, and she said, Matthew would always say, you mean Belinda Carlisle, which is more my speed, because she was the lead singer for the Go-Go's in the 1980s. And she said, no, Brandi Carlile. And I spent the morning listening to her. And she has a way in her lyrics of giving a sense of, painting a picture that has a detail of a perspective that's just not common. And a couple of things that I was reflecting on and remembering, I was this morning early preparing remarks for today, listening to Brandi Carlile and reading through the Sermon on the Mount. And the Sermon on the Mount is where Jesus basically says, this is sort of the blueprint for what it looks like to live life in the kingdom, and it's all upside down. None of it, it's all different than what we would say. He says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of God is theirs. It's like blessed are those who sort of don't have what we all want. And then he adds to the list, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. There's something about, I think, Jen, your words, that we discovered helpers, which is such a beautiful way to think about, a way to experience the world, that people want to help other people. And it's blessed are those who mourn, because they're going to receive something that is needed in a time when it's desperately needed. And, I can't overstate this enough, but one of the things that Jesus came to do when he introduces us to this upside down way of living, he's giving us a foundation that can actually hold the weight of what we feel. It's something that gives us a way for us to see something beyond that which we can see. Moments like this remind us that there has to be something more. There just has to be. It can't be the end and then nothing. And so we know this instinctively. And when I think about this, that the gospel gives us this perspective, that the message of Jesus brings us a kind of perspective into places where our perspective fails, where we can't see any further. Jesus gives us another way to use this. Again, the Apostle Paul writes this in a letter to this little church in Corinth. And he uses imagery of our earthly tents, our bodies, and how they begin to fail us. And that somehow something is disappearing or failing us here that gives way to something else. And here's how we read this. In chapter 5, starting in verse 1. For we know that if this earthly tent that we live in is destroyed, We have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven that is not built with human hands. So he's just giving us, it's a metaphor. He's giving us an imagery to say, when something starts happening here, it makes us long for something more permanent that comes from somewhere more beautiful. Meanwhile, we groan. So in this in-between place, our emotions, our beings sort of go, we groan. We groan longing to be clothed with this heavenly dwelling, because when we experience that, we won't be left bare. We won't be in this state anymore. For while we are in this tent, we groan and we feel the weight of this burden, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but rather we want to be clothed with this heavenly dwelling, with this thing that is possible, so that what is mortal, I love this phrase, gets swallowed up in life. That all of a sudden we experience the life that we've always wanted and longed for, that it's available. And then he says, now the one who has fashioned us for this very purpose is God. Right? The God in his beauty and goodness and care for us has called us to be alive. But this world sort of has a way of undermining that in thousands of ways, of which this is one. And he says that God has fashioned us for his very purpose, and he has given us his spirit, his presence, as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. Guaranteeing it. Therefore, we remain confident, and we know that as long as we are at home in this body, there's a gap. There's a gap. And so we walk by faith and not by sight. The gift that we have in this in-between space where what we see can't figure it out, God gives us something that supersedes our sight, and it's called faith. It's something beyond what we can see with our eyes, and it allows us to live in these in-between places. It's a gift of faith that defies our observation, and it thrives in uncertainty. It requires us to not know something. And it's our faith in those gaps where hope and goodness will begin to be found and seen and experienced, and really experienced. And this is the promise of redemption. And precisely what Jesus promised is precisely what Paul wrote about when he says it is his promise, his presence with us is his promise. And until we get the thing that we actually want, we hold on with faith. We walk by faith and not by sight. So this morning I was listening to Brandy Carlisle. I mentioned that. There's a song that I'll listen to over and over again called Stay Gentle. And I think you said you're the Brandy Carlisle fan, and Matthew just went along with you. So he's going to go along with you one more time. The song is called Stay Gentle, and the charge is to do just that. Don't let the hard things of this world rob you of wonder and joy. Don't let the things harden you to hope. Don't let the fact that your team loses over and over again stop you from being a Wake Forest fan, right? You just keep loving and longing and wanting. It's interesting because the next line in Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. By God's presence, that's how you find comfort. You skin your knee, mom holds you. It doesn't make the knee go away. It just means there's something about her presence that makes things, okay, this is going to make it. And the next line is, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So I'm reading this, listening to a song called Stay Gentle, and hear the lyrics. Stay gentle, keep the eyes of a child. Don't harden your heart or your hands. Know to find joy in the darkness is wise, although they will think that you don't understand, that you didn't really see what you thought. There's a legacy to gentleness. As I've heard the stories of Matthew's loyalty and his consideration and his presence with others, the thing that everybody said is everybody thought he was his best friend. That's the common thing that everybody has said as you hear stories, and people have called and made comments on all the different Facebook posts and Instagram and such. And I think perhaps You could say that there was a gentleness to him. And by gentleness, I don't mean something fragile, but rather something that can absorb almost anything without becoming harsh or hardened. Gentleness. Gentleness is not harsh or severe. That's the way it's actually defined. Gentleness is a way of being careful with the fragility of others. It's a way of seeing and being safe for other people to participate in. It's the safety we feel. This is why he was everyone's best friend. Brandy Carlisle continues. She says, stay gentle, keep the eyes of a child, and wear your heart on your sleeve. Know to find joy in the darkness is wise, although they will think you're naive. You know, Jesus described himself in this way. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Those two words mean the same thing. To be gentle is one of the fruits of God's Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness. It's a kind of confidence that isn't prone to shift with our shifting circumstances. It doesn't wince when things don't work out. It stays loyal. And it stays tough without becoming harsh. It's a way in which other people feel that when they are with us. Gentleness was a part of Matthew's character, not because he was naive, but because he had a different way of seeing. There's something fundamentally different. It's not naive, it just knows there's something more. Call it walking by faith and not sight. The way in which his life will impact ours will be in the stories that you will continue to tell weeks and months and years from now. But perhaps what I think maybe most telling and maybe thing we can hold on to, and very few people, I've unfortunately been in a lot of these circumstances, very few people get this kind of description. But to consider that the way Matthew lived with this sort of gentleness, if we can use that word, was the way his life reflected the way Jesus described himself as being gentle and humble in heart. I'm not sure there is a higher compliment you can pay to another human being. We opened this time with the Psalm from 34. God is near to the brokenhearted. That God is careful with us. He's gentle. He knows how we are made. He knows how we deal with things. And he is gentle with us in our grief and through our grief. We find a safety in his presence, and there we will find his peace and his comfort. His promise is his presence. This is precisely what Jesus said. I've told you that I'll be with you and remain with you, so that in this world you will have peace. In me you'll have peace. In this world you'll have trouble. But take heart. I've overcome the world. So what do? You take heart. You hold on to something. Even when you can't quite perceive it with your eyes, we walk by faith and not by sight. The last line of Brandy Carlisle's song, Be Gentle, Stay Gentle, says this. Don't let the world make you callous. Be ready to laugh. No one's forgotten about us. There is a light for your path. Would God be so gracious to eliminate so many beautiful things out of something that none of us would have ever wanted. And that somehow his promise of redemption will find its way running underneath every single thing that you feel and experience in the months and the years to come. And it will give birth to some of the most beautiful things that you have yet to imagine. Father, that's the power of the gospel. That which was meant for death becomes life. That which was meant for undermining becomes good. That which was meant for destruction becomes beauty. Don't let us grow hardened or calloused. And when we think about the gentleness of Matthew, would it just be a reflection of your invitation to come, all of us who are worn down and heavy laden? Because you're gentle and humble in heart. Father, I ask for comfort, peace for this family. And I ask you, Father, to do things in miraculous ways all along. And I ask all of this in hope of your promise of redemption. And I pray these things in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. As we get ready to dismiss, I want to remind you of a couple things. One is I would encourage you, obviously the next few days and the next few weeks, we'll be calling and talking and touching base with Jenna and the rest of the family. But it'll be 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now that our lives will be back to normal. I would encourage you to maybe take out your phone and put a date, a reminder in your calendar for maybe 6 months or a year from now. Sometimes just to remember this day and then to reach out to someone that you know in the family at that time and just let them know you're thinking about them, remembering Matthew and honoring him. And that way I think it would mean so much to them. And secondly, as you head out this morning, the family will be receiving a receiving line over here to your left as you exit the building in the atrium. And there are also some finger foods and snack items in the cafe, which will be out to your right. And I'm sure the family would love to say hello to many of you. I know you've traveled, and so certainly thank you for being here. It means so much to them, and what an honor it is for us to be a part of this service with them. So thank you so much for your time. If we can be of any assistance to you, we'll be down front after the service. And again, the receiving line is out to your left. The refreshments are out to your right. Thank you so much.
you.